Mike, it's
Jake,
Thursday.
it is Thursday. That means tomorrow's Friday, and I'm happy about that.
Are you?
I am.
Oh, you got big plans this weekend?
I am going to be lazy, and I might even start some yard work. We're not really at the part of the year where we're supposed to be doing yard work, but it's been a long time since I went out and did anything in my yard, and the leaves are still there. I better do something about that.
That's embarrassing.
It is.
hmm Are they cyber leaves? All right. So, uh, today, big deal. We have a webinar midday about measuring your risk. And one of the things behind this is, the feds keep saying, oh, okay, everybody needs to measure their risk, measure your risk, measure your risk, using this CSF, do this, do that. And so, like, that's vague. And so we're
How
going
do
to help
you do
people.
that?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
And obviously, with third party risk, how do you measure that? And so we're going to talk over that. If you don't have a link to the webinar and need it, you can go to our website or you can email me, Jake at criticalinsight.com, and I'll send you one. Then in a couple of weeks, we'll have another webinar on speaking of measuring your risk, CPGs. And this is healthcare, but it's actually pretty good for
The
everybody.
cyber performance
These
goals.
cyber performance goals where
Yeah.
they have inexplicably split them into essential and enhanced as if it was okay just to do the first 10. So we're going to talk about that. There are a lot of people who think the feds didn't go far enough. And then there's me who thinks, no, they should have gone further. Next week, Ellie and I and Jonathan will be with John Rigi at AHA Rural, speaking of healthcare, and that is in Orlando. If you are in Orlando or you're in Florida, let me know. Love to say hi. Or if you're going, or if anybody you know is going, or even if you don't work in healthcare and you're in Florida, hey, let's say hi. I hear it's warmer there. And then we have security awareness training coming up on the 23rd. Okay, let's get to the news. Okay. So, Mike, we talk a lot about needing security awareness training. We talk a lot about social engineering. And then comes some news this week of a company that lost $25 million in a social enginering scam.
Yeah.
What happened?
This is what we're all looking at right now. Well, they deep faked. I don't think it was the CEO's voice, but it was somebody who had the authority to move money, and he had a finance worker start to pay out millions of dollars at a time, and it got all the way up to $25 million before they caught it. And it was a video call, a deep fake video call, and the applications out there that are available to anybody to make one of these things have proliferated. So we can really expect a lot more of this. So heads up. I mean, security awareness training is going to have to change. We're going to have to change what we tell people.
I mean, $25 million. I mean,
Yeah, this was
wow.
this was a corporation in Hong Kong, and yeah, it's a lot of money, man.
That's a lot of money. That's
I
crazy.
think you
All
would
right.
catch it before 25 million.
You think that you would, and but I will also say one of the things, as folks know, I run marketing, and I'm in all these marketing groups, and the marketing tech around creating videos and the like that can easily be used for deep fakery is quite good. There's a video of a great chief marketing officer who I know, and he put it out. And what you do is, you speak in English, and it translates it to Spanish and translates it to French. And I mean, it's really good.
And it makes your mouth the words in the other language too.
Right,
I've
right,
seen those. Those are
right.
incredible.
It's really good, although it doesn't make my mouth roll the R's in Spanish.
It's because you can't roll the R's.
I can roll the R's. Thanks. Well, you know what? We'll test it
we'll
later.
check that later.
Okay. All right. Yeah. When you buy a burrito. All right. So, this other one. So you have brought this up a bunch of times. You have
Yes.
had a hypothesis that some of the cyber criming that's happening is because of disaffected youth.
Yes. And right now, I'm going to say I told you so. Because I've brought this up about, hey, Gen Z is really being attracted to this kind of crime because the barrier to entry is really low. The Russian cyber crime gangs have turned into corporations that just lease out their tools and their methods. And given the other alternatives in today's world, crime is pretty attractive. And so they're talking about what is behind this trend. And part of it is they're being actively targeted by these gangs. And that's exactly what I said, right? They're reaching out to them because this is a really, if you want to destabilize a country, turning all the young people into criminals, great way to do that. So is this just for the sake of making money and more criminal stuff, or is this really got some state actor behind it because it's so destabilizing? I don't know. I know what I think.
What do you think?
I think there's a country behind it. I think they're throwing gas on this fire.
Maybe. I mean, although we always see, I mean, there are entire movies about teenagers doing things. So
this is no Breakfast Club, dude.
Is it? But is it 16 Candles? I don't know.
No.
Right. I don't know. We're sort of aging ourselves with the movie
we
references.
Are.
Okay. Yep, we need to stop. Okay. So there are a couple of we talked about the fact that American Hospital Association conference is next week.
Yep. Wish I was going.
I
didn't get invited.
I didn't. I'm not bringing you. I'm not bringing you. Sorry. So there are three healthcare things we're talking about real quick. Number one is there's now a ransomware gang that is that gave a hospital 2 days to pay $900,000.
Yeah.
A children's hospital got attacked.
Yep.
And last year, 2023, not surprisingly, set a record for health data breaches, and by that we mean the most records exposed.
Yeah.
So we've talked, Mike, before about the criminals are getting more desperate because fewer people, fewer organizations are paying ransoms. So, I'm not going to attack children's hospitals off the table. Like they'll attack whoever. And they're coming up with tactics to try to get people to pay. We talked about them attacking, emailing patients, and it's just going to get worse. I mean, I don't know why. I don't even know why this is news that they gave a hospital 2 days to pay $900,000.
Well, it's this Lockbit gang, right? These guys seem to be the worst of the worst. I mean, there's a lot of these, and there's a lot of cross pollination between them. They'll disable a gang's infrastructure, and it's recreated overnight, and they pull in people from other places. But this Lockbit gang is doing everything they can to be way out in front of the viciousness here of not only how they choose their targets, but how they are extorting them. So, you got 2 days to pay $900K, or we make all the records public, and then the class action suit happens. So the $900K is probably the cheapest way for you to get out of here. I think they're actually doing that kind of math, but and the children's hospital, I think it's Chicago, Lurie Children's Hospital, also Lockbit. So, these guys need to be, and we did catch one person from that gang who is now incarcerated. That's not even a drop in the bucket. I mean, we got a bad problem with this proliferating here. Now it's, per that earlier story about, the teenagers getting into this, we're having more of a domestic problem now. So I hope that the domestic side of this doesn't shoot itself in the foot by attacking hospitals. If you live here, don't knock down a hospital, but I know I'm just kind of blowing that into the wind and nobody's going to hear it. You're on mute.
Oh, I think. Oh no, I've put $1 in the jar.
Yep.
What I was going to say is, so Mike, I feel like there's some contradiction in the news this week. And so this is healthcare and everyone else, healthcare, local government, everything. There are a bunch of stories that say, okay, fewer people are paying ransoms, fewer organizations are paying ransoms. And so, the bad guys are getting more desperate in their tactics.
Trying to monetize the stuff however they can. Yep.
Right. But at the same time, There's also news that the ransomware bad guys, the ransomware terrorists, raked in a record $1 billion from victims last year, that they made more last year than any other year.
And
These two stories don't square.
well, remember the extortion amounts are also going up,
Oh,
and remember that they're talking about this from last year. So
we're
things.
only in February.
I know, but things have changed already, since like the end of last year. And, states like Florida have an actual law that says you cannot pay, these extortion demands. So, the fact that there's $1 billion been raked in from victims, I think that's just in the US, because globally
Yeah,
there's a
sure.
lot of this going on. Um, but one thing they talk about is how they are bringing people into this business. So again, the quote is, newcomers are lured by the promise of lucrative returns, the low barriers of entry. Right. So there you go. It's low risk, it's high reward, and it's easy to get into. So while, there are fewer extortion demands being paid, there's more and more and more individuals engaging in this kind of crime.
Mm.
So, that number is likely to tick up, even if there's resistance to paying, the ransom demands, the extortion demands, because they are figuring out other ways to monetize these records, right? Going, like you said, going straight to the victims, you know, um, they threatening the class action and actions by the Federal Trade Commission, right, for the False Claims Act, and all that stuff starts to pile up. They're doing everything they can, and they're getting more vicious about it. So we'll have to see what next year's numbers look like. But I bet that goes up.
Yep.
And
Yep.
speaking of the FTC, do you remember Blackbaud, which was
Hmm.
one of the first third-party, like really big deal,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
stole a
Yeah.
bunch of records, and a whole bunch of hospitals had to fall on their swords and publicly report that they had lost records because it was Blackbaud.
Right.
Well, they finally settled with the FTC, and I don't know, I can't remember the number, but look how long that took. And you know they they said they had reckless data retention practices. Okay, and this should be a lesson to everybody. The reason they got hit so hard is because they held on to a lot of records that they didn't need to, and they got stolen. And so, a bit of that wound is self-inflicted.
Yep.
But the FTC finally settled with them, and now we know how bad it's going to be for other third parties, because there have been other examples of this, and now those shoes are going to drop too.
Yeah. I mean, you set the precedent. Nice job. So far, Mike, we've been talking about ransomware and cyber crime related to money.
Yeah.
All of that we've talked, $1 billion here, and are people paying ransoms? But not every threat actor is after money. In fact, the most dangerous ones are not after money. And one of the big stories that was in the blast this morning was about the Chinese hackers. That
Yes.
that that the Chinese state hackers have been lurking in U.S. infrastructure systems for 5 years. What's the story here?
Well, this is starting to come up every week, where the FBI and CISA are coming out and they're saying, "Hey, we are really concerned about energy and water here, because now we know that the Chinese have been in these infrastructures for quite a while. The warnings have been coming out almost weekly. This one is very explicit, saying they've been in our infrastructure for 5 years. Now, the fact that they know that means that they've been going around kicking them out, right? How would you know they're in there unless you find them, right? If you find them, you're going to kick them out. So, I think there's some remediation going on, but again, where we should be watching is Taiwan, because the minute something happens over there and we react, something's going to happen here. And that's the message they're trying to send us. So, really, and we need to do a panel on this, getting ready to take the punch, right? Because the punch is coming.
So, um, great.
Right,
Can't wait for that.
but on the other hand, there is an and this is for consumption by China. This article, I'm sure, right? The U.S. can respond decisively to cyber threat posed by China. Okay, and they're talking about how they communicate this to China, going, "Look, man, you're not the only country in the world that can do this. So if you pull that trigger, very bad things are going to happen."
Well, I mean, I think we've talked, pretty extensively about hacking back and what that looks like and things that have changed in the last couple of years.
Yep.
And yet, I can't say that what the U.S. has done has made a huge dent in this that we can
But you
see.
but you don't know. We don't
Right.
know. My
Are you?
clearance is long gone.
As is mine,
I see.
and my clearance was weirder than yours, but
Um,
that's a conversation for another time. So, so we've now talked about bad guys going after money. We've talked about bad guys trying to disrupt critical infrastructure. So let's end with a third thing that bad guys might want to do: disrupt elections.
oh
Um,
yeah. Oh yeah.
um, in case people haven't heard, there's an election going on. Whether you're caucusing or primaries or whatever. Yeah, that's happening this year, and there's been a lot about AI, about how deep fakes are going to be used to influence the election this year.
Yeah. Not only deepfakes. So yes, the article is about AI generated fraud, disinformation, things like that. Um, but again, if you are in possession of all of these stolen records, and
Hmm.
and we know the country of China is in possession of a whole lot of those stolen records, they can figure out how to message people individually with messaging that will resonate with them and coerce them, guide them to do what they want them to do.
Hmm.
And here's the thing, this is now the capability of everybody, right?
Sure.
And so we're going to be flooded with this stuff. But remember, every country on earth kind of has a preferred outcome in the upcoming election. So it's going to be coming from all sides. And we're just going to be awash in this stuff. And, American media literacy being what it is, this is just going to, I mean, again, destabilizing, yes. But this election is going to be lit with what we have to put up with here, or what we're going to have to endure in terms of all of the deep fakery and the disinfo.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Um, okay. Threats and phones. What do you got?
Google said something really interesting. Half of all the 0 days used against Google's products are developed by spyware vendors. And interestingly, also, there was just an international agreement on how to regulate spyware vendors. Lots of spyware vendors do not care what your regulations are. So I don't know exactly what needle that's going to move, but that was really interesting for Google to say that. And, uh, the ability for country to surveil journalists and whatever is just too easy right now. So, we should throw these away uh, and go back to copper wires, because it's a lot more secure that way. Um, Moving on, QNAP has patched some pretty high severity bugs. If you are a QNAP user, you're looking at the CVEs are 45025 and
I
39297.
hope everybody wrote that down.
I hope
Actually, if
everybody
you're
wrote
not
that down.
watching it live, you can just rewind and then you can
Oh
write it
yeah.
out. Okay. All right. All right.
The Avanti product that's just been like pilloried.
Over and over and
It's
over.
number four. Vulnerability number 4 is now under active exploit.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and this one's 0 day, and I don't think there's a patch for this one yet, and they just keep coming after him. There are two maximum severity bugs in it's called FortiSIM, right? Fortinet SIM product.
Hmm. Hmm.
CVE is 23108 and 23109, command injection flaws. And another interesting article that I would put under the category of threats and vulnerabilities: malware as a service is now the top threat to organization. Going back what we said about how far the bar has been lowered and how easy it is to get into crime, malware as a service. Fabulous.
Great. You forgot the most important thing.
What? Patch
Patch
Chrome.
Chrome.
Yeah, just disable Chrome.
I'm still using the Netscape browser, so it all works out well for me. So, Mike, at the end of
Mosaic.
all of these, you have a kicker,
Yep.
something to leave us with a smile on our face. In this case, I believe it's a toothy smile. What do
It
you
is a
got?
toothy smile. So this one is for all the fanatics of I need to connect absolutely every product in my home to my smartphone. Yeah, that's you. Yeah. Um, It turns out there was a giant denial of service attack in Switzerland.
Hmm.
And turns out that all those packets were coming from compromised toothbrushes. Just unbelievable article. And there's some speculation as to exactly how much those toothbrushes participated in this, and were they the source of really this big denial of service, or were they just kind of a component of that? But still, if your toothbrush can be hacked, you're using the wrong damn toothbrush.
All right.
And what is a smart toothbrush anyway? Why would a toothbrush be connected to the global network? What the hell?
Oh, I have I have so many things to say about this. Was this a plaque attack? Was this, I mean, there's a whole joke about pasting. Anyway, we can go on and on and on. All right, everybody. I hope that brightened your day.
Yeah,
just like it whitened your teeth.
That's
All
right.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Good day. Goodbye.
See you next week. Bye.